Welcome to English at Work. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Alex. Welcome to our brand new series, English for Meetings.
Over the next 8 episodes, we are going to teach you everything you need to know to participate confidently and effectively in workplace meetings.
And if you just finished our Interview Mastery series, congratulations, you got the job. Now you need to succeed in it, and that means meetings.
Lots and lots of meetings. The average professional spends about 15 hours per week in meetings. That's almost half of your work time.
Which means if you're not good at meetings, you're not going to be successful at work. It's that simple.
But here's the good news. Meeting skills can be learned. You don't have to be naturally outgoing or a great public speaker. These are techniques anyone can master.
Today, we're starting with the fundamentals. What are the different types of meetings? What's expected of you? How do you prepare? And what's basic meeting etiquette?
By the end of this episode, you'll understand the meeting landscape and be ready to walk into any meeting with confidence.
Let's get started.
Okay, Alex, let's start with the basics. Not all meetings are the same. What are the main types of meetings people encounter at work?
Great question. Understanding the type of meeting you're walking into helps you know what to expect and how to prepare. Let's break down the most common ones.
First, the team meeting. This is probably the most frequent type.
Yes, team meetings are regular gatherings of your immediate work group, usually weekly or bi-weekly. The purpose is to stay aligned, share updates, and coordinate work.
What typically happens in a team meeting?
Usually, everyone gives a quick status update on their projects. Here's what I'm working on, here's where I'm stuck, here's what I accomplished. Then you discuss any team-wide issues or upcoming deadlines.
So it's mostly informational.
Mostly, yes. It's about keeping everyone on the same page. The phrase, "on the same page," means everyone has the same understanding or is working toward the same goals.
What about one-on-one meetings?
These are meetings between you and your manager, usually scheduled regularly, often weekly or bi-weekly. These are more personal and focused.
What's discussed in a one-on-one?
Your individual projects, challenges you're facing, your professional development, feedback on your performance. It's your dedicated time with your manager, so use it wisely.
Should you prepare for one-on-ones?
Absolutely. Bring a list of topics you want to discuss, questions you have, updates on your work. Don't waste this valuable time.
What's the difference between a status update meeting and a brainstorming session?
Good distinction. Status update meetings are about reporting progress. What's done, what's in progress, what's blocked. They're primarily informational.
And brainstorming?
Brainstorming sessions are creative and collaborative. The goal is to generate ideas, solve problems, or explore possibilities. There are no bad ideas in brainstorming. You want quantity and creativity.
So the mindset is completely different?
Completely. In status updates, you're being factual and concise. In brainstorming, you're being open, creative, and building on others' ideas.
What about client meetings versus internal meetings?
Client meetings are external. You're meeting with people outside your organization. These tend to be more formal and require more preparation.
Why more formal?
Because you're representing your company, you need to be polished, professional, and often more careful about what you say. Internal meetings with colleagues can be more relaxed.
What happens in client meetings?
It depends, but often you're presenting proposals, giving project updates, gathering requirements, or solving problems together. The client is paying for your services, so there's a different dynamic.
Let's talk about formal versus informal meetings. What makes a meeting formal?
Formal meetings usually have a structured agenda, specific roles like a chairperson and note-taker, and they often follow parliamentary procedure or Robert's Rules of Order in very formal settings.
That sounds intense. What's an example?
Board meetings, shareholder meetings, large company-wide meetings. There's a specific order of business, motions and votes, recorded minutes, very structured.
And informal meetings?
Most meetings are informal. You might have an agenda, but it's flexible. The conversation can flow naturally. Your weekly team meeting is probably informal. You're just talking things through.
How do you know which type of meeting you're attending?
The invitation should tell you. Look at the agenda if there is one. Check who's attending, and when in doubt, ask, is this a formal presentation or more of a working session? That's a perfectly reasonable question.
So the key is understanding the purpose before you walk in?
Exactly. Are we sharing information, making decisions, generating ideas, solving problems? Once you know the purpose, you know how to prepare and participate.
Now, let's talk about the different roles people play in meetings. Not everyone has the same job.
Right. Understanding your role helps you know what's expected of you. Let's start with the meeting leader or facilitator.
What does the leader do?
The leader runs the meeting. They create and distribute the agenda, start and end the meeting on time, guide the discussion, make sure everyone gets heard, and keep things on track.
That sounds like a lot of responsibility.
It is. Good meeting leaders are skilled facilitators. We'll cover how to lead meetings in episode 3. For now, just know that if you're the leader, you're in charge of the meeting's success.
What if you're a participant, just attending, not leading?
Participants still have important responsibilities. You need to prepare by reviewing the agenda and any materials, come ready to contribute, listen actively, stay engaged.
What does contribute actually mean?
Share your expertise, offer ideas, ask questions, provide updates on your work. Don't just sit there silently for an hour. Even if you're junior, your perspective has value.
But you also shouldn't dominate the conversation.
Exactly. There's a balance. Contribute meaningfully, but don't monopolize the discussion. We'll cover this more in episode 2.
What about the note-taker or secretary role?
This person is responsible for documenting what happens in the meeting. Key decisions, action items, who's responsible for what, important discussion points.
Is this always the same person?
In formal meetings, yes, there might be a designated secretary. In informal meetings, it might rotate, or someone volunteers, or the leader takes notes.
What makes good meeting notes?
Clear, concise, actionable. Not a transcript of everything said, but a record of what was decided and what needs to happen next. We'll cover this in detail in episode 8.
What about a timekeeper role?
Some meetings designate someone to watch the time and keep the meeting on schedule. We have 10 minutes left and 3 more agenda items to cover.
That seems helpful.
It's very helpful, especially for meetings that tend to run over. The timekeeper keeps things moving.
Can one person have multiple roles?
Sure, in a small meeting, the leader might also be the timekeeper and note-taker. In larger meetings, these roles are usually separate.
What if you're presenting in the meeting?
Then you're the presenter for that portion. You're responsible for preparing your content, delivering it clearly, and handling questions. We'll cover presenting in meetings in episode 5.
So you might be a participant for most of the meeting, then a presenter for your section.
Exactly. Your role can shift during a single meeting.
What's expected of you if you're the most senior person in the room?
Good question. Senior people often have additional responsibilities, setting the tone, making final decisions, ensuring junior people feel comfortable speaking up.
And if you're the most junior?
Don't assume you should just listen and not speak. You were invited for a reason. You might have the most recent knowledge or a fresh perspective. Speak up when you have something valuable to add.
How do you know if you have something valuable to add?
Ask yourself, is this relevant to the topic? Does it add new information or a different perspective? Is this the right time to say it? If yes to all 3, speak up.
Now, let's talk about what you should do before the meeting even starts. Preparation is crucial.
Where does preparation start?
With the meeting invitation or agenda. When you receive a meeting invite, actually read it. Don't just accept and forget about it.
What should you look for?
The purpose of the meeting, the agenda or topics to be covered, who else is attending, what you're expected to contribute, and any pre-read materials.
Pre-read materials?
Documents you're supposed to review before the meeting. Maybe a report, a proposal, data analysis, meeting notes from last time, whatever is relevant to the discussion.
And you actually need to read these?
Yes, nothing is more frustrating than people showing up to meetings unprepared. If there's a 5-page document attached, read it before the meeting.
What if there's a lot of material and you don't have time?
At minimum, skim it and understand the key points. Or be honest in the meeting. I didn't have time to review this in detail, so I'll need some context. But this should be rare, not your default.
What if there's no agenda?
You can ask for one. Hi, Sarah. I see we have a meeting tomorrow. Could you share what topics we'll be covering so I can prepare? This is professional, not pushy.
Should you prepare talking points?
Absolutely. Write down the key points you want to make, maybe some data or examples to share.
Should you rehearse what you're going to say?
For a formal presentation, yes. For a regular team meeting, you don't need to memorize a script, but thinking through your points helps you speak more clearly and confidently.
What questions should you ask yourself while preparing?
Great question. Ask, what's the goal of this meeting? What do I need to contribute? What information do I need from others? What decisions need to be made? How can I add value?
That last one is key. How can I add value?
Right. Don't attend meetings passively. Think about how you can make the meeting more productive or help the team move forward.
What about physical preparation for in-person meetings?
Gather what you need, your laptop, notebook, pen, any printed materials, water. Know where the meeting is, which conference room, which floor.
What if it's in a building you've never been to?
Give yourself extra time to find it. Arriving flustered and late makes a bad impression. Arriving calm and on time makes a good one.
What about virtual meeting preparation?
Test your technology in advance. Camera, microphone, internet connection. Make sure you have the meeting link. Check your background and lighting. We covered this in the interview series, and we'll dive deeper in episode 4.
Should you review notes from previous meetings?
Yes, check the notes from last time. What action items did you commit to? What was discussed that might continue today?
What if you committed to do something and you didn't do it?
Be prepared to explain why and what your plan is now. Don't just hope no one remembers. Accountability matters.
How early should you arrive for a meeting?
For in-person meetings, 2 to 3 minutes early is perfect. Early enough to settle in, but not so early that you're awkwardly waiting.
And for virtual meetings?
Join right on time or 1 minute early. Joining 10 minutes early and sitting in silence is awkward for everyone.
What if you're the first one there?
That's fine. Use the time to review your notes or prepare your materials. Don't panic if you're alone at first.
Let's talk about basic meeting etiquette. What are the do's and don'ts?
Let's start with the most important rule. Be on time. Actually, be early. If the meeting starts at 2, you should be in your seat at 1:58.
Why is this so important?
Because late arrivals disrupt the meeting. Everyone has to stop while you settle in. It's disrespectful to the group and wastes everyone's time.
What if you're unavoidably late?
Enter quietly, sit down quickly, don't make a big entrance. Apologize briefly if appropriate, then catch up on what you missed by reviewing notes later.
What about your phone during meetings?
Put it away, not on the table face down. Actually put it away in your pocket or bag. Or if you must have it visible, turn it completely silent.
No checking messages?
No, it's distracting and disrespectful. If you're expecting an urgent call, mention it at the start. I apologize in advance, but I may need to step out if my phone rings. My mother is in the hospital.
That's different than just scrolling through Instagram during the meeting.
Completely different. People notice when you're not paying attention.
What about laptops? Can you have those open?
This depends on the workplace culture. In some places, laptops are expected for taking notes or referencing documents. In others, they're discouraged because people multitask.
How do you know which culture your workplace is?
Observe what others do, especially senior people. If everyone has laptops open, it's probably fine. If no one does, leave yours closed.
What if you need your laptop for the meeting?
Use it appropriately. Don't check email or work on other projects. Stay focused on the meeting.
Let's talk about when to speak and when to listen.
This is an art. You need to contribute, but you also need to listen. A good rule of thumb, listen 70% of the time, speak 30% of the time.
How do you know when it's your turn to speak?
Wait for natural pauses. Don't interrupt when someone is mid-sentence. Make eye contact with the speaker or meeting leader to signal you want to say something.
Can you raise your hand?
In large or very formal meetings, yes. In small meetings, it looks odd. Just wait for a pause and jump in politely.
What's the polite way to jump in?
Can I add something here? Or building on what Michael said, or I'd like to offer a different perspective. We'll cover this more in episode 2.
What about body language during meetings?
Sit up straight, look alert and engaged, make eye contact with speakers, nod when you agree. Don't slouch, don't cross your arms, don't look at your phone or out the window.
Should you take notes?
Definitely if you're the designated note-taker. Even if you're not, taking brief notes shows you're engaged and helps you remember important points.
What about side conversations?
Never. If you need to say something to the person next to you, wait until there's a break or the meeting ends. Side conversations are rude and distracting.
What if someone asks you a direct question and you weren't paying attention?
Be honest. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Don't try to fake it, that's worse. But this should be rare if you're paying attention.
What about eating or drinking during meetings?
Water or coffee is fine. A full meal is not unless it's a working lunch and everyone is eating. Don't crunch on chips or unwrap noisy snacks.
How do you exit a meeting gracefully if you need to leave early?
Mention it at the beginning. I have to leave at 3 for another commitment, so I apologize in advance. Then when the time comes, quietly gather your things and go.
Let's wrap up with the biggest mistakes people make in meetings, especially when they're new to the workplace or new to English-speaking environments.
Number 1 mistake?
Showing up unprepared. We mentioned this, but it's worth repeating. Not reading the agenda, not reviewing materials, not knowing what you're supposed to contribute.
Why is this such a big deal?
Because it wastes everyone's time. If 5 people spend 10 minutes bringing you up to speed on something you should have read beforehand, that's 50 minutes of collective time wasted.
What's another common mistake?
Multitasking during meetings, checking email, working on other projects, texting. People think they're being sneaky, but it's obvious.
How obvious?
Very obvious. Your eyes are looking down at your laptop or phone, you're not reacting to what's being said, and when someone asks you a question, you have to say, "Sorry, what?"
What about participating too much versus not enough?
Both are problems. Dominating the conversation and not letting others speak is bad, but never speaking up and sitting silently for every meeting is also bad.
How do you find the right balance?
Be aware of how much you're talking relative to others. If you've spoken 5 times and some people haven't spoken once, pull back. If you haven't said anything in 3 meetings, it's time to contribute.
What about going off topic?
This is a huge time waster. Someone mentions they went to Italy, and suddenly everyone is sharing their Italy stories for 15 minutes while the actual agenda is forgotten.
How do you avoid this?
Stay focused on the agenda. If you're the leader, gently redirect. That sounds great. We should talk more about that later. For now, let's get back to the budget discussion.
That takes some confidence.
It does, but people usually appreciate it. Everyone's time is valuable.
What about being negative or complaining in meetings?
Bad idea. Meetings aren't the place to vent about how everything is terrible. Be constructive. If there's a problem, propose a solution.
What's the difference between raising a concern and complaining?
Raising a concern, "I'm worried this timeline might be too tight. Can we discuss adding more resources?" Complaining, "This timeline is impossible. We never have enough time or resources. This always happens."
One is problem solving, one is just venting.
Exactly. Be the problem solver.
Last common mistake?
Not following through on commitments. If you say, "I'll get that report to you by Friday," you need to deliver. Your credibility depends on it.
What if you realize you can't meet a commitment?
Communicate early. "I know I said Friday, but I'm running into some data issues. Can we push to Monday?" Don't just miss the deadline and hope no one notices.
All right, let's recap what we covered in this first episode about meeting basics.
We covered the main types of meetings you'll encounter: team meetings, one-on-ones, status updates, brainstorming sessions, client meetings, and the difference between formal and informal meetings.
We discussed the different roles in meetings: leader or facilitator, participants, note-taker, timekeeper, and presenters. Each role has specific responsibilities.
We talked about preparation. Read the agenda, review materials, prepare your talking points, gather what you need, and arrive on time, or better yet, early.
We covered basic meeting etiquette: be on time, put away your phone, listen more than you talk, stay engaged, avoid side conversations, and be professional.
And we highlighted common mistakes to avoid: showing up unprepared, multitasking, dominating or never speaking, going off topic, being negative, and not following through on commitments.
Next episode, we're diving into one of the most challenging aspects of meetings for many people, speaking up and contributing effectively.
We'll cover when to speak, how to make your point clearly, how to agree and disagree professionally, and how to build on others' ideas. These are essential skills for meeting success.
Until then, this is Jenny
And Alex,
from English at Work. Pay attention in your next meeting. Observe what works and what doesn't. We'll see you in episode 2.